The alarm bells rang across the Earth Defense Station horizon. Commander Jake Morrison rushed to the main control room, his coffee still warm in his hand. The space station floated quietly in Earth's orbit, watching for any signs of trouble from the deep corners of space. "What do we have, Santos?" Jake asked his communications officer. Lieutenant Maria Santos looked up from her screen, her face worried. "Sir, we're getting a strange signal from the Kepler 442 system. It's not like anything we've seen before. The signal is very weak, and it keeps cutting out." Jake moved closer to Maria's station. On the screen, waves of sound moved up and down in patterns that looked almost like music. But this was not music. This was something else entirely. "How far away is that system?" Jake asked. "About 1,200 light-years from Earth, sir. The signal has been traveling for a very long time to reach us." Jake picked up his communicator. "Dr. Park, Captain Ward, please report to the main communications room immediately." Within minutes, Dr. Kevin Park and Captain Lisa Ward arrived. Kevin was Earth's best expert on alien languages, while Lisa knew more about alien life than anyone else. On the station. "Play it again," Jake told Maria. The sound filled the room. It was like whale songs mixed with electronic music, but there was something desperate about it. The sound rose and fell, sometimes fast, sometimes slow. Even without understanding the words, everyone could hear the fear in it. "This is definitely not human," Lisa said, studying the patterns on the screen. "The frequency patterns suggest an aquatic species. They probably evolved underwater." Kevin nodded as he listened. "The mathematical structure is very complex. This species is highly intelligent, but more than that, ... He paused, listening more carefully. "This is a distress call." Jake felt his stomach tighten. "You're sure?" "The repetition patterns, the way certain sounds keep coming back. This is definitely a call for help, a desperate one." For the next 6 hours, Kevin and Lisa worked to decode the message. They used every computer program Earth had developed for alien communication. Slowly, word by word, the message became clear. The signal came from a species called the Zephyrians. They lived on a water world in the Kepler 442 system. For 3 months, their planet had been under attack by something they called the Drakari Empire. "We are the Zephyrians of the Blue World Aquatia," the message began. "We send this message to any civilization that can hear us. We are dying. Our cities burn. Our children cry. We have no weapons. We have no soldiers. We are healers and teachers and builders of peace." The message continued, and Jake felt his anger growing with each word. "The Drakari came to our world demanding surrender," they said. "They needed our life essence to power their war machines. We tried to negotiate. We offered them our knowledge of medicine and science. We offered them friendship. They laughed at us. They said weak species exist only to serve strong ones." Kevin's voice shook as he read the translation. "The Drakari have been taking our people. They put them in machines that drain their life energy. Our strongest fighters lasted only minutes against their weapons. We have perhaps 2 weeks before. Our species is extinct." Lisa wiped tears from her eyes. "This is horrible. These Zephyrians sound like peaceful people. They've never hurt anyone." "The message ends with a plea to any species listening," Kevin continued. "They're asking for help. Any help. They say they've sent this message to every star system within range, hoping someone will answer." Jake stood quietly for a moment, thinking. Earth had been part of the Galactic Cooperative for 50 years, but most alien species still saw humans as newcomers, primitive, unimportant. The other species had their own problems and rarely helped each other. "Sir," Maria said softly, "I've been monitoring other frequencies. I don't think anyone else is answering their call." Jake made a decision that would change everything. "Get me a direct line to Earth Defense Command, Priority 1. Within an hour. Jake was speaking to the United Defense Council. General Patricia Hayes and Admiral Ryan Clark appeared on the large screen in the command center. "Commander Morrison," General Hayes said, "we've reviewed your report. This is indeed a tragic situation. But Earth has limited resources. We can't save every species in the galaxy. With respect, General, Jake replied. These people are about to be wiped out. They're asking for help. Isn't that what we're supposed to do? Admiral Clark leaned forward. The Drakari Empire controls dozens of star systems. They have hundreds of ships. If we send a small force, we'll just be throwing lives away. Then we don't send a small force, Jake said firmly. The room fell silent. General Hayes and Admiral Clark looked at each other. What exactly are you suggesting, Commander? General Hayes asked. I'm suggesting we send everything we have. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon. These Zephyrians saved our lives once. What do you mean? Admiral Clark asked. 10 years ago, the Zephyrians shared their medical knowledge with the Galactic Cooperative. Their healing techniques saved millions of human lives during the Martian plague. They'd never asked for anything in return until now. Jake looked directly at the screen. General, Admiral, we have a choice. We can let good people die because it's not our problem, or we can show the galaxy what humanity stands for. The debate that followed lasted 3 hours. Politicians argued about costs and risks. Military leaders worried about leaving Earth undefended. But in the end, President Angela Foster made the final decision. We will answer their call, she announced. Not with a small peacekeeping force, but with the full power of the human defense fleet. If the galaxy wants to know what kind of species humanity is, they're about to find out. Orders went out across the solar system. Every available ship was to join the fleet. Every soldier was to prepare for war. Humanity was going to save the Zephyrians. The alien species throughout the galaxy watched with interest as humans began to mobilize. Most thought it was a foolish gesture by a young species that didn't understand how dangerous the universe really was. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The shipyards around Earth had never been so busy. Admiral Ryan Clark stood on the bridge of his flagship, the USS Retribution, watching dozens of ships prepare for the largest military operation in human history. The massive battlecruiser was over 2 kilometers long, bristling with weapons that could destroy entire cities. Status report, Admiral Clark called out to his staff. Captain Sam Turner, commander of the carrier USS Valkyrie, appeared on the main screen. Admiral, we have 1,200 fighters ready for deployment. The new Raptor-class ships are performing better than expected in the test runs. Good. What about the stealth ships? Captain Nicole Adams spoke from the bridge of the USS Shadow. Strike. All 15 stealth destroyers are ready, sir. We've been practicing hit-and-run tactics for the past 2 weeks. The Drakari won't know what hit them, Admiral Clark nodded. The human fleet was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. While other species built their ships for direct combat, humans had learned to use many different fighting styles together. Some ships were big and powerful, others were small and fast. Some could hide from enemy sensors. Others could repair themselves during battle. Colonel Eric Stone reported from the Marine Training Facility on the Moon. Admiral, we have 30,000 Marines ready for combat. They've been training with the new assault pods that can cut through enemy ship hulls. We've also been working with zero-gravity combat techniques. Excellent. Commander Rogers, how are our computer specialists doing? Commander Beth Rogers looked up from her station. We've been studying Drakari communication patterns from old battles. We think we can break into their computer systems during combat. If we can confuse their command structure, half the battle is won. Dr. Alan Wright joined the conversation from his laboratory. Admiral, we've developed new weapons specifically designed to fight the Drakari. Their ships use a type of armor that's very strong but has one weakness. Our new plasma cannons can burn right through it. The preparation was massive. Earth's factories worked around the clock building weapons and supplies. The asteroid mining stations sent every piece of metal they could find. The colonies throughout the solar system contributed ships and soldiers. Lieutenant Colonel Maya Johnson was training fighter pilots on Mars. She had been a combat pilot for 15 years and knew how to fight in space better than almost anyone. Listen up, pilots, she told her squadron. The Drakari are bigger and stronger than us. Their ships are tougher, but we have something they don't have. We can think fast and change our tactics in the middle of a fight. She showed them videos from previous battles with the Drakari. The alien ships were huge, dark vessels that looked like flying fortresses. They moved slowly but packed enormous firepower. "The key is speed and surprise," Maya explained. "We hit them hard, then disappear before they can hit back." "We're not trying to slug it out with them. We're trying to confuse them and tear them apart piece by piece." The human fleet also had something completely new. Mobile battle stations that could build new ships and weapons while traveling through space. These massive construction platforms could repair damaged vessels or create new fighters in the middle of a battle. Commander Tony Garcia was in charge of the destroyer squadron. He had been studying Drakari battle tactics for months. "They fight like ancient warriors," he told his captains. "They line up their ships and charge straight at the enemy. They've been doing this for so long that they can't imagine any other way to fight." "What's our advantage?" asked Captain Julie Barnes. "We don't fight fair," Tony replied with a grin. "We use every trick we can think of. We attack from multiple directions. We use decoys and fake signals. We make them think we're doing one thing while we're actually doing something else." The galaxy was watching humanity's preparations with great interest. The Altarian Republic, one of the most powerful species in the galaxy, sent a message offering to help with supplies. But their leader, Chancellor Vextai, didn't think humans had much chance of winning. "The Drakari Empire has conquered 17 different worlds," he told his council. "No species has ever successfully challenged them. The humans are brave, but bravery alone won't win this war." The Centauri Federation remained neutral. They had fought the Drakari once, 50 years ago, and lost badly. They didn't want to risk another war, but not everyone doubted humanity. The Zephyrians, still hiding on their damaged world, sent messages of hope and gratitude. They couldn't fight, but they could provide detailed information about Drakari weapons and tactics. Ambassador Veltar, the Zephyrian leader, sent a personal message to Admiral Clark. "We know you are risking everything for strangers. This is not common in the galaxy. Most species think only of themselves, but you are different. You fight for others even when it costs you greatly." Meanwhile, intercepted Drakari messages showed their reaction to humanity's mobilization. War Master Thackeron, the Drakari commander besieging the Zephyrian world, was amused by the human response. "These humans think they can challenge the might of the Drakari Empire," he told his officers. "We have been conquering worlds since before their species learned to make fire. Let them come. We will add their ships to our fleet and their soldiers to our slave pens." The Drakari had good reason to be confident. Their empire controlled dozens of star systems. Their ships were powered by the life energy of conquered species, making them incredibly strong. They had never lost a major battle, but they had never fought humans before. As the human fleet prepared to leave Earth's solar system, Admiral Clark addressed his forces. "We're not going to fight for conquest or glory. We're going to fight because innocent people ask for help, and that's what good neighbors do. The Drakari think might makes right. We're going to show them that being right makes you mighty." The largest fleet in human history began its journey toward the Kepler 442 system. 12 battlecruisers, 30 destroyers, 15 stealth ships, 5 carriers, and dozens of support vessels. Over 100,000 soldiers, pilots, and crew members. They were heading toward a fight that would change the galaxy forever. The human defense fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. What they saw made everyone angry. The beautiful blue world of Aquatia was surrounded by dark Drakari ships. Bright flashes of light showed where enemy weapons were hitting the planet's surface. Cities were burning. The ocean was boiling in some places. Admiral Ryan Clark stood on the bridge of the UFS Retribution, watching the destruction. "How many Drakari ships?" he asked his sensor officer. 37 vessels, Admiral. Most of them are heavy cruisers. They've been bombing the planet for hours." "Any response from the Zephyrians?" "Very weak signals, sir. They're still alive. Down there, but barely." Clark activated the fleet communication system. "All ships, this is Admiral Clark. We're looking at the systematic murder of an entire species. This ends now. The Drakari fleet had already detected the human arrival. War Master Thackerone appeared on the main screen, his reptilian face twisted in what might have been a smile. His skin was dark green and covered with scars from many battles. His eyes glowed red with anger. Unknown vessels, Thackerone's voice was deep and threatening. This is Drakari space. You will leave immediately or be destroyed. Admiral Clark stepped forward. I am Admiral Ryan Clark of the Human Defense Fleet. You will stop your attack on the Zephyrians and surrender immediately. Thackerone laughed. I sound like rocks grinding together. Humans? The galaxy's newest species thinks it can challenge the Drakari Empire? We have conquered 17 worlds. We have destroyed fleets 10 times your size. Leave now and we will let you live. Counteroffer, Clark replied calmly. You leave now, and some of you might survive what's coming. The Drakari War Master's expression changed from amusement to rage. You dare threaten us? Very well. We will add your ships to our fleet and your people to our slave pens. The communication ended. Both fleets began moving toward each other. The Drakari ships formed a traditional battle line, their heavy cruisers. In front, smaller ships behind. It was the same formation they had used for centuries, but the human fleet did something unexpected. Instead of forming their own battle line, they scattered in all directions. What are they doing? Thackerone demanded from his flagship. Unknown, War Master. Their ships are moving in random patterns. This is not a recognized battle formation. Admiral. Clark was implementing something he called controlled chaos. Instead of fighting the way the Drakari expected, humans would fight their own way. Turner, launch all fighters. Pattern Delta 7, Clark ordered. Captain Sam Turner's voice came through the communicator. Roger, Admiral. All fighters launching now. 1,200 small fighters poured out of the human carriers, but they didn't attack the Drakari ships directly. Instead, they began hitting the enemy supply lines and communication arrays. The Drakari had never seen anything like it. Their heavy weapons were designed to fight big ships, not swarms of tiny fighters. Every time they aimed at one group of fighters, another group would attack from a different direction. Captain Adams, you're cleared for Ghost Protocol, Clark announced. Captain Nicole Adams smiled on the bridge of the USS Shadow Strike. Finally, all stealth ships, activate cloaking devices. Time to show these lizards what fear looks like. 15 human ships vanished from Drakari sensors. The enemy fleet suddenly found themselves under attack from invisible enemies. Explosions erupted along the hulls of Drakari cruisers as stealth ships fired from point-blank range, then disappeared again. Where are they? Thackerone shouted at his sensor officer. I don't know, War Master. They appear, fire, then vanish. Our sensors cannot track them. The first major engagement began when Commander Tony Garcia led a squadron of destroyers toward the Drakari flagship. The Drakari prepared for a standard ramming attack. Foolish humans, Thackerone said. They think 5 small ships can damage our flagship. But as Garcia's ships approached, something impossible happened. The 5 destroyers suddenly split apart, revealing they were actually 15 smaller vessels that had been connected together. The humans had disguised multiple ships as single larger ones. What sorcery is this? Thackerone demanded. The 15 ships spread out and began attacking the Drakari flagship from all sides. Their new plasma weapons cut through the enemy armor like it was paper. Within minutes, the mighty Drakari flagship was burning, but the real surprise came when Colonel Eric Stone's Marines began their assault. Using new boarding pods that could cut through ship hulls, human soldiers began appearing inside Drakari vessels. The Drakari had always relied on their superior size and strength in hand-to-hand combat. They were twice as tall as humans and 3 times as strong. But they had never fought enemies like these. The human Marines used teamwork, advanced weapons, and tactics the Drakari had never seen. They moved in small groups, covering each other, using the ship's own passages against the defenders. They didn't try to outmuscle the Drakari. They outthought them. Boarding parties on decks 7, 12, and 15, reported a Drakari officer. They're taking control of our weapon systems. How many of them are there? Thackeron asked. We don't know. They seem to be everywhere at once. The battle's turning. Point came when Lieutenant Commander Rachel Murphy, working from the UFS Retribution, managed to break into the Drakari communication network. She had been studying their language and computer systems for months. I'm in their command network. She reported to Admiral Clark. I can see all their ship positions and battle plans. Can you disrupt their communications? Better than that, sir. I can give them false orders. Rachel began sending fake commands to the Drakari fleet. Half their ships received orders to attack the other half. The Drakari fleet began firing on itself, creating chaos and confusion. Our ships are attacking each other, a Drakari officer reported in panic. That's impossible, Thackeron replied. Check the communication channels. But it was too late. The Drakari fleet was tearing itself apart. Ships that had fought together for years were now destroying each other based on false orders they thought came from their own command. Admiral Clark watched the battle from his bridge. The humans were winning, but it wasn't like any victory the galaxy had ever seen. The humans weren't just defeating the Drakari, they were making them defeat themselves. War Master, a Drakari officer said urgently, we must retreat. We've lost 15 ships, and the humans have lost only 3? Thackeron's pride was wounded, but he wasn't stupid. All ships retreat to the outer system. We will regroup and call for reinforcements. As the surviving Drakari ships fled, Admiral Clark opened communications with the Zephyrian planet. This is Admiral Clark of the Human Defense Fleet. The immediate threat to your world has been removed. We're sending medical ships to help with your wounded. The response came in the form of thousands of grateful voices singing together across the communication channels. The Zephyrians were safe, at least for now, but War Master Thackeron was already sending a message to the Drakari High Command. The humans are unlike any enemy we have faced. They do not fight for conquest or glory. They fight as if the universe itself depends on their victory. Send the Grand Armada. We will need everything we have to stop them. The real war was just beginning. 3 weeks after the first battle, the largest fleet in Drakari history arrived at the Kepler 442 system. Supreme War Master Grektal commanded over 200 ships, including the massive dreadnought World Crusher. The ship was 5 kilometers long and carried enough firepower to destroy entire planets. This time, the humans will learn the true power of the Drakari Empire, Grektal declared to his officers. He was even larger than Thackeron, with ceremonial scars covering his face and arms. He had personally conquered 12 worlds and had never lost a battle. Admiral Ryan Clark watched the approaching fleet from his command center. The humans had used the 3 weeks well. New ships had arrived from Earth, and the fleet had grown to over 100 vessels. But they were still badly outnumbered. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the Drakari flagship, reported Lieutenant Maria Santos. Grektal's massive form appeared on the screen. Humans, I am Supreme War Master Grektal. You have embarrassed the Drakari Empire. For this crime, your entire species will be enslaved. Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick. Admiral Clark stepped forward. I am Admiral Ryan Clark. Here's our counteroffer. Leave this system immediately, free all your slaves, and we might let your empire survive. The Drakari leader's eyes burned with rage. You dare mock the supreme commander of the Drakari forces? Your arrogance will be your doom. The transmission ended, and both fleets prepared for battle. But this time, the humans revealed new weapons and tactics that surprised even their allies. Captain Julie Barnes commanded a new type of ship called a modular. These vessels could change their shape and weapons during combat. One moment they looked like a carrier, the next they transformed into a heavy battleship. All modular ships prepare for Pattern Alpha, Barnes announced. Let's show them what adaptability really means. The human fleet also included something that had never been seen before in space warfare: Commander Steve Mitchell's engineering. Ships could modify weapons and defenses in real time. Learning from each enemy attack and developing counters within minutes, the battle began differently this time. Instead of scattering, the human fleet formed a defensive sphere around the Zephyrian world. The Drukhari, expecting another chaotic fight, charged forward in their traditional formation, but the humans had prepared a trap. As the Drukhari fleet approached, the human ships began working together in ways that seemed impossible. Small fighters carried parts of larger weapons. Destroyers combined their shields to create massive barriers. Even the medical ships joined the fight using their precision tools as weapons. What are they doing? Greyktul demanded. Their ships are connecting to each other. It appears they're forming some kind of superweapon, Warmaster. His tactical officer reported the human fleet had become something like a single, giant organism. Each ship played a part in a larger strategy that the Drukhari couldn't understand. When the enemy fired at one section, other sections would adapt and strengthen. When Drukhari ships tried to break through, the human formation would shift and surround them. Captain Doug Harrison, commanding the science vessel UFS Discovery, was working on something that would change everything. His team had been studying captured Drukhari technology for weeks. "Admiral, we found something important," Harrison reported. "The Drukhari power systems aren't just advanced technology. They're powered by living beings?" "What do you mean?" Clark asked. "Every Drukhari ship has imprisoned creatures from conquered worlds. They're draining their life energy to power their weapons and engines. That's why their ships are so powerful." The Discovery sent shock waves through the human fleet. The Drukhari weren't just conquerors. They were literally consuming other species to fuel their empire. "How many beings are we talking about?" Clark asked. "Millions, sir, maybe billions across their entire fleet. They've been doing this for centuries." Admiral Clark made a decision that would define the rest of the war. All ships' new priority. We're not just fighting to save the Zephyrians anymore. We're fighting to free every enslaved being in the Drukhari Empire. The news spread quickly through the human fleet. Soldiers and pilots who had been fighting for duty now fought with righteous anger. The Drukhari hadn't just threatened innocent people. They had built their entire civilization on the suffering of others. Meanwhile, the battle was spreading across 3 star systems. The Drukhari, frustrated by human tactics, began attacking civilian targets. But this only made more species join the fight against them. Major Kate Phillips led ground operations on worlds the Drukhari had conquered. Her forces didn't just drive out the enemy. They liberated slave camps and taught the freed peoples how to fight for themselves. "We're not here to conquer," Kate told a group of freed Altarians. "We're here to help you take back your world." The liberated species began joining the human fleet. They brought knowledge of Drukhari weaknesses and a burning desire for revenge. The war became something the galaxy had never seen. Multiple species working together against a common enemy, the Zephyrians, despite their peaceful nature, began using their healing abilities to help wounded human soldiers. The Altarians shared their advanced shield technology. Even species that had been enemies of each other put aside their differences to fight the Drukhari. "This is impossible," Greyktul raged as he watched his empire begin to crumble. "Species don't work together. They compete. They fight each other." But the humans had shown the galaxy something new. They had proven that cooperation was stronger than conquest. That helping others was more powerful than helping yourself. The turning point came when Captain Helen Scott, Admiral Clark's tactical officer, developed a new strategy. Instead of trying to destroy Drukhari ships, they would liberate the enslaved beings powering them. "If we can free the prisoners, their ships will lose power," she explained. "We can defeat them without destroying them." Human boarding parties began attacking Drukhari vessels with a new mission. They fought their way to the engine rooms not to plant explosives, but to free the imprisoned beings inside. As more and more Drukhari ships lost power, Greyktul realized he was facing defeat. But he had one last weapon, the World Crusher itself. "If we cannot win this war," he told his officers, "then we will destroy everything. Charge the planet killer weapon. We will turn this entire system into dust, the massive weapon began building power. It could destroy not just the Zephyrian world, but every planet in the system. The humans had minutes to act. Admiral Clark looked at the readings and made a decision that would test everything humanity believed in. All ships, prepare for the final assault. We're going to board that dreadnought and stop that weapon. Sir, that's a suicide mission, Captain Turner protested. Maybe, Clark replied, but we didn't come here to play it safe. We came here to do what's right. The human fleet began its final attack on the World Crusher. The real test of human courage was about to begin. The World Crusher's planet killer weapon was charging. Admiral Ryan Clark could see the massive energy readings on his screens. In 10 minutes, the weapon would fire and destroy everything in the star system. All ships, this is Admiral Clark, he announced to the fleet. We have one chance to stop this weapon, I won't lie to you. Most of us probably won't survive. But if we don't try, billions of innocent people will die. The human fleet raced toward the enormous Drakari dreadnought. The World Crusher was surrounded by dozens of escort ships, all firing at the approaching humans. Explosions lit up space. As human vessels were destroyed one by one, Supreme War Master Gregtal watched from his command bridge. Let them come, he snarled. They cannot stop the inevitable. In 8 minutes, the system will be nothing but dust. But Admiral Clark had a plan. Captain Scott, are you ready with the evacuation teams? Captain Helen Scott nodded from her position. All Marine units are prepared, Admiral. We'll get those prisoners out. The plan was impossible, but it was the only way. While the planet killer weapon was charging, human soldiers would board the World Crusher and evacuate all the enslaved beings powering it. Without their life energy, the weapon would fail. Colonel Eric Stone led the first wave of Marines. Their assault pods cut through the dreadnought's armor like knives through paper. Inside the massive ship, they found something that made even hardened soldiers sick. Thousands of beings from dozens of different species were connected to horrible machines. The devices were slowly draining their life energy to power the ship's weapons. Many of the prisoners were barely alive. Command, this is Stone, the colonel reported. We've found the prison levels. There are more people here than we expected. We need more time. Time we don't have, Clark replied. The weapon fires in 6 minutes. The human Marines began working frantically to free the prisoners. They cut power cables, smashed control panels, and carried weak beings toward the escape pods. The Zephyrians had sent their best healers to help keep the rescued prisoners alive. Meanwhile, the battle outside was getting desperate. The human fleet was taking heavy losses. Captain Sam Turner's carrier UFS Valkyrie exploded in a ball of fire. Captain Julie Barnes' modular ship was cut in half by Drakari weapons. Admiral, we're losing too many ships, reported Commander Tony. Garcia, hold the line, Clark ordered. Stone needs more time. Inside the World Crusher, the Marines had freed hundreds of prisoners, but thousands more remained. The ship's power levels were dropping, but not fast enough. 4 minutes until the weapon fires. Announced the ship's computer. Colonel Stone made a decision that would save millions of lives. All teams, plant the charges. We're going to blow the power core. Sir, that will destroy the entire ship, protested Lieutenant Commander Pete Walker. Better than letting them destroy the entire system, Stone replied. The Marines began placing explosives throughout the ship's power systems. But they needed to make sure all the prisoners were evacuated. First Commander Steve Mitchell, the fleet's best engineer, had an idea. Admiral, what if we don't destroy the weapon? What if we turn it around? What do you mean? The planet killer needs a direct line of sight to its target. If we can change its direction, we can point it at the Drakari fleet instead. It was a crazy plan, but it might work. Captain Nicole Adams and her stealth ships began attacking the World Crusher's navigation systems. If they could damage the ship's ability to aim, the weapon might fire in the wrong direction. 3 minutes until firing, the computer announced. The evacuation was almost complete. Colonel Stone's teams had freed over 10,000 beings from the horrible machines. But the weapon still had enough power to fire. That's when Ambassador Veltar, the Zephyrian leader, made an unexpected announcement. Human fleet, this is Veltar. We are sending our healing ships directly to the World Crusher. We will not let these prisoners die. Ambassador, that's too dangerous, Admiral Clark protested. You risked everything to save us, Veltar replied. Now we risk everything to save them. The Zephyrian medical ships, designed for peace and healing, flew directly into the battle. They docked with the World Crusher and began treating the weakest prisoners. Other allied species joined them. Altarian ships provided shields. Centauri vessels offered fast transport. 2 minutes until firing. Supreme War Master Gregtol was getting desperate. His ship was being boarded, his prisoners were being freed, and his own fleet was turning against him as more species joined the human alliance. Fire the weapon now, he ordered. Sir, it's not fully charged. The power levels are at only 60%. I don't care. Fire it now. The planet killer weapon began to fire, but something went wrong. Captain Adams' attacks on the navigation system had worked. Instead of pointing at the Zephyrian world, the weapon was aimed at the heart of the Drakari fleet. The massive energy beam cut through space and struck Gregtol's own escort ships. Dozens of Drakari vessels were destroyed by their own ultimate weapon. What have you done? Gregtol screamed at his officers. The navigation system has been damaged, came the reply. We cannot control the weapon's direction. With the weapon fired and his fleet destroyed, Gregtol had lost everything. The remaining Drakari ships began surrendering. The war was over, but the humans surprised everyone again. Instead of executing the defeated Drakari, Admiral Clark made a different choice. All Drakari personnel, this is Admiral Clark. We are not your enemies. We are liberators. Any of you who want to join us in building a better galaxy are welcome. Many Drakari, tired of centuries of conquest and cruelty, accepted the offer. They helped free the remaining prisoners and began learning new ways to live without enslaving. Others, the war's end led to the creation of the Galactic Defense Alliance. Species from across the galaxy joined together to protect the innocent and help each other. Humanity was chosen as the first chairman, not because they were the strongest, but because they had proven they would fight for others, Fleet Admiral. Ryan Clark, promoted after the victory, addressed the new alliance. We didn't come to your stars to conquer. We came because someone asked for help, and that's what good neighbors do. The Zephyrian homeworld was rebuilt more beautiful than before. A monument was erected with the inscription, "When the innocent called for help, humanity answered with everything they had. May all species learn from their example." Years later, a young Zephyrian student asked her teacher why humans had fought so hard for strangers. The teacher smiled and replied, "Because to humans, there are no strangers. There are only neighbors they haven't met yet." The galaxy had learned that the strongest force in the universe wasn't conquest or fear. It was the willingness to help others, even when it cost everything. Humanity had taught them that being right makes you mighty, not the other way around. And in the depths of space, new species continued to send messages asking for help, knowing that somewhere someone would always answer.